And welcome to the Thumb Coast Get Stuck on Sports TV edition. Dennis Stuckey, sans Brady Beaton now. Brady no longer with me, and congratulations on him on getting a new full-time position with the Motor City Rockers. So good luck to Brady in his endeavors. And in the meantime, we'll muddle through a show today with just me, but we've got a lot to talk about in terms of the high school hockey season is underway. But we're going to wrap up football first by congratulating Harbor Beach on winning the Division VIII state championship. They rolled past Hudson back on Friday, 31-20, and that's the second state title in school history for the Pirates. Now on to hockey. The season's been going on for a couple of weeks now, but we had the big opening event for our area, the Larry Mann's High School Hockey Tournament, over the weekend, and it was actually a really exciting 4 games that were played. We'll start with the games that were played on Friday. These were the semifinal games. Probably the least interesting of the 4 games for the weekend was the first semifinal. Marysville defeated Thumb Legion by a score of 7-2. This was actually a close game through one period. It was 1-0 Vikings after the first on a Brady Nolfold goal. But then Marysville pulled away in the second period. Their special teams were extra special in this game. They scored 3 power play goals. They had a shorthanded goal and actually scored 2 other goals as penalties were running out. So in essence, they were shorthanded goals, but they just don't statistically count that way. But Jimmy Tremp got a power play goal to make it a 2-0 game in the second. Austin O'Boyle then got into the act with a goal to make it 3-0. Before Chase Tulaski got Legion on the board. It was 3-1, but O'Boyle's second goal of the game late in the second period kind of put the game to rest. It made it 4-1, and then the Vikings came out in the third and scored 3 more goals, with Tremp getting his second. Parker Sheffer, who's a very nice player for Marysville, a new guy to their lineup, he had a goal and 3 assists in this game. His goal was short-handed. That made it 6-1. O'Boyle finished his hat trick to make it 7-1 before Ben Meyer got a goal for a Legion. So 7-2 was the final, and that was kind of indicative of how the game went. Marysville kind of took control in this one and won easily. A 6-point game for Austin O'Boyle with 3 goals and 3 assists. Jimmy Tremp had a couple of goals and an assist. Sheffer, as I mentioned, had a goal and 3 assists. And Luke Fick, who we'll talk more about for his performance on Saturday, but he had 3 assists in this game. Ben Meyer had a goal and an assist for Legion. The second semifinal game was a 6-3 Port Huron Northern win over Port Huron Unified, but this game was closer than the score. It was 3-3 midway through the third period. This was a game where it took PH just 9 seconds to score. They got a Jackson Turnbull goal exactly 9 seconds into the game to take a 1-0 lead. But Sawyer Kemp scored a shorthanded goal to tie it at 1, and that was your score at the end of one period of play. And it stayed that way until the middle part of the second period, when Northern scored twice in 40 seconds. Robbie Mossett got the first goal, and then Kemp scored his second goal of the game to make it 3-1. And it looked like Northern was taking over control of the hockey game, and yet somehow PH kind of stemmed the tide. They settled things down. They got a Ronnie Mason power play goal late in the period to cut it to 3-2 going into the third. They got another power play goal right off a face-off from Jax Turnbull to tie the game at 3 in the third period. But with just 7:38 to go, Chris Herms took over the hockey game for Northern. He got a power play goal that put the Huskies in front 4-3, and a few minutes later, he scored another goal to make it a 5-3 hockey game, and then Sawyer Kemp finished things off. His hat trick goal was into an empty net, and it was another short-handed goal. So the Huskies end up winning 6-3, but they score 3 late goals in the third period to kind of pull away and get that victory. Kemp leading the way with 3 goals and an assist. Herms with the 2 goals and an assist. And Sam Harris had a couple of helpers. Turnbull was in on all 3 PH goals. He had 2 goals and an assist. And Ronnie Mason had a goal and assist. Ronnie Mason scored 1 goal last season. And this year in 7 games, he has 7 goals. He's playing a lot of minutes again this year. You know, for the first 2 years he was with the Red Hawks, they only had 9-10 players, and Ronnie Mason was on the ice all the time. Then last year, they got their numbers up at PH and really turned the program around. Excuse me. He didn't play as much. He kind of was in the bottom third of their defense pairings. But this year, he's the number 1 guy again, and he's off to a great start on the season. 7 goals in 7 games for Ronnie. He loves to shoot the puck. All right, so that took us to Saturday. The consolation game is normally not a game that most people pay attention to, and it's generally not a good game. This was a terrific game. Thumb Legion and Port Huron Unified came out, and they were very evenly matched, and it was a fun, up and down, wide open hockey game. Legion ends up winning 6-5, but they had to come from behind to do it. They got off to a good start. Jackson Anthony scored to give them a 1-0 lead, but Evan Gander came right back for PH to tie it at 1, and that was the score at the end of the first period. In the second period, it was very strange because it felt like Thumb Legion completely dominated the period, and yet they couldn't pull away from PH. Peyton Bowerman scored a really nice shorthanded goal to give them a 2-1 lead, but then they gave the puck away and allowed Nolan Duffy to score an easy goal that tied it at 2. Anthony got his second goal of the game to give Legion the 3-2 lead, but Jax DeMille came back after Legion had done everything but take a 2-goal lead. PH just rushed the puck up the ice, and DeMille was wide open in front, and he tied the game at 3 going into the third period. And that goal sparked PH. They took control of the hockey game. Turnbull scored early in the third to give PH a 4-3 lead. And then Gander got his second goal of the game with under 8 minutes to go in the game to make it 5-3. And it looked like the Red Hawks were going to pull away and get an easy victory. But Legion started their comeback with just under 5 minutes to go. Peyton Bowerman got his second goal of the game to cut it to 5-4. And then with 1:21 left in regulation, Evan Samuelson, under wild pressure, found the back of the net with a great shot from the top of the left circle to tie the game at 5. And it looked like we were going to have overtime in the consolation game until with under 30 seconds to go in the period, Legion got it deep and they found Peyton Bowerman wide open in front of the net. He finished off his hat trick with a goal with 17 seconds left in regulation. And it was a Thumb Legion victory, 6-5 over PH in a great hockey game. Bowerman with the 3 goals. Chase Tulaski set up the last 3 goals for Legion and had 5 assists in the game. Anthony with 2 goals and an assist. And Blake Bowerman had a couple of helpers. 2 goals for Evan Gander, Jax DeMille, and Jax Turnbull each had a goal and an assist. And Ronnie Mason had 2 assists in that one for PH. So that took us to the championship game, and it was Marysville going up against Port Huron Northern. This is something that's happening a lot in the Larry Mance tournament in recent years. In fact, since Anchor Bay stopped playing in the tournament back in the 2018 season, it's been either Northern or Marysville that has won the championship, and they have played against each other in the finals in all but one season. And that was a year ago when Marysville beat Port Huron Unified 8-3 in the final. So Marysville was trying to repeat as champs and trying to win their 3rd Mans in the last 4 years, but they had their nemesis Port Huron Northern in the way. Remember, before Marysville won the finals in 22-23, Northern had won every single Larry Mance tournament that had ever been played prior to that. So this one got off to a very good start. Both teams had a lot of energy. There was a lot of physical play. Drew Krasinski of the Vikings didn't get on the score sheet, but everybody knew he was playing in this game. He had at least 6 huge body checks, just crushing guys. He was a heat-seeking missile. Anything in gold he was running into. And that, of course, got both sides energized. A lot of hitting in this game, a lot of skating. There was some good goaltending, and there were some great goals. And it was Austin O'Boyle picking up where he left off after a 6-point game the day before. He opened the scoring to give Marysville a 1-0 lead on a bit of a mistake. The Huskies got caught backpedaling into their own zone, and they turned the puck over. But they bounced right back. They got a Bryce Havens goal on some good work from Ruiz, a young player for Northern who's got a lot of energy. Roman Ruiz is going to be a good player for them. And then that goal kind of flipped the energy to Northern's side. They won a puck battle later in the first period, and Chris Herms came off the right wing boards, and he put one off the goaltender's arm and into the net to make it 2-1. So Herms picking up where he had left off with the 2 big goals the day before. He gets a big goal there that gave the Huskies the lead 2-1. The second period was all Marysville. They had 17 shots on goal, and they just kept coming in wave after wave. And finally, the dam broke midway through the period. They scored 2 goals 27 seconds apart. O'Boyle again got his second of the game and 5th goal of the tournament to tie it at 2. And then it was Martindale who gave Marysville the lead just 27 seconds later, 3-2. So that was your score going into the third. But the Huskies settled things down, came out, and started things off very well in the third period. And then it was Chris Herms again who scored back-to-back power play goals. His first one, a shot from the blue line, tied the game at 3. His second one in a goal-mouth scramble gave the Huskies the 4-3 lead. And then from that point on, Northern, it looked like, was just trying to hang on and hold on to the victory. And Marysville kept coming and coming and coming. And they did everything but tie this hockey game. And finally, with 4.5 minutes to go, Luke Thick, like he was shot out of a cannon, took a pass through the neutral zone, and he skated past the Northern defense like they were pylons. And then he went in and he made a great move on the goaltender, Evan Alcomo, slid in the backhand shot, and tied the game at 4. And this time, we did go to overtime. But overtime didn't last very long in this one, as Marysville got possession, kept it down in the Huskies zone, kept the pressure on, and on kind of a scrambly play where it looked like O'Boyle was going to get the scoring chance, and the puck bounced away from him. But Luke Thick was in the right place at the right time, and he buried the game-winning goal to give the Vikings an exciting 5-4 overtime win and the Larry Mann's championship again. Second year in a row, Marysville has won the title, and the third time in 4 years that the Vikings are the champs. And again, I mentioned Krasinski, another guy, he didn't get on the score sheet, but Colin Finney played 2 really solid hockey games for Marysville. They've got a nice team. Now, they started the season with a very tough schedule, and they were 1-5 when they came into this tournament. But they get 2 nice wins at the Larry Mann's tournament, and they played very well. Marysville and Northern, by the way, have played now in the finals 5 times in the last 6 years of this event. Thick had the 2 goals. O'Boyle had 2 goals and an assist. He was statistically the tournament MVP. He had 9 points in 2 games, including 5 goals. 3 more assists for Sheffer, and Jimmy Tremp had a couple of assists. Herms had the hat trick for Northern. Ruiz and Draven Rogers each had 2 assists for the Huskies, but it was a great start to the high school hockey season at the Larry Mann's tournament over the weekend, and Marysville is your champions. Now, hockey's not the only thing going on. We're finally going to get the start to the boys' basketball season this week. We'll take a brief look at some of the area teams that we'll have our eyes on for this upcoming season when we come back in just a moment. This is the Thumb Coast Get Stuck on Sports TV edition.
From doctor's appointments to work, shopping, and dining adventures, Blue Water Area Transit buses are the lifeline of our community. Depend on us for a ride that connects you to life's essentials. Blue Water Area Transit. Ride the wave.
Riding the bus will avoid the hustle and save you lots of dough. Road rage, don't chance it. Ride Blue Water Transit everywhere you go.
All right, welcome back. The Get Stuck on Sports TV edition here on Thumb Coast TV. Boys basketball season is getting underway this week. It's kind of a light schedule. There aren't a bunch of games going on, although we will have a game on each night on GetStuckOnSports.com this week. But let's take a look at some of the area teams, and I want to start with Port Huron Northern. We'll see them against Anchor Bay early in the week. They're coming off a season where they went 15-9, which doesn't seem great, but they moved up to the MAC Red last year, and they actually finished second in the MAC Red behind Warren Lincoln, who, of course, was very good. And the Huskies did finally beat Dakota in a postseason game. They beat them in their district opener last year. However, they lost by 4 points to L'Anse Creuse North in the district final and were denied again winning a district championship and moving on to try to make a deep run in the postseason. And I bring that up because now that young group of super talented players at Northern are seniors. And this is the last chance for the Amir Moreland, Cam Haryu, Alex Jameson group to try to make that long playoff run that has eluded Northern for a long, long time. The Huskies showed last year that Dakota is no longer the bugaboo team, that they can compete with them and beat them. And they played a really good game with L'Anse Creuse North and just came up short. L'Anse Creuse North just made a couple of more shots in that ball game, but it had to be disappointing last year. This has got to be a hungry Port Huron Northern team, and I'm really interested to see how this group of seniors now comes together and what they can do this year, because the goals really aren't the regular season at this point. The goals have got to be the postseason and winning a district and getting to a regional and seeing what kind of damage that you can do. The other team I want to talk about from the area, of course, is Port Huron High. The Red Hawks have really turned the program around recently. They went 18-4 last year. They ran the MAC Gold 10-0, and it was their third straight league title. But this is going to be a very young PH team. They're going to have a lot of talent, but they're not a ton of experience for this team, and they're going to have to figure out how to replace two of the best players that they've had in several years. Garrett James, maybe the best shooter that PH has ever had, 1,000-point scorer in his career. He's moved on through graduation, and the very versatile Jaden Carswell, who just exploded onto the scene the last 2 years and has been a terrific ball player. He's also not there anymore. So they've got some faces that they have to replace, but there is, again, a lot of youthful talent. Don't know if PH is going to be as good as they were last year, but I still think they're going to be a very interesting team. The other team to keep an eye on is Marysville. Now, 2 years ago, Marysville won 2 games. They went 2-21, and they were just miserable. And then they made a big move the following year, going 11-13. And then last year, this team had a winning record. They started the season poorly. They were 3-7 to start, but they won 7 in a row and went 9-4 down the stretch to finish with a 12-11 record. Again, they lose Mackay Donowa Radford, who was their star player. However, he was hurt a lot. And so the group of returning players are used to playing without him. The question for the Vikings, because we know that they will play hard, we know that they will play defense, is how will they score? Where will the points come from? Because they don't really have a bona fide star, at least not one that we're aware of yet. And so it's going to be scoring by committee, and it's going to be up to everybody to kind of chip in and be that 4 to 8 point guy so that they can amass enough points to win ball games this year. But Marysville is an interesting team to keep an eye on as well. So is St. Clair. The Saints were terrific last year. They went 19-6. They finished second in the gold behind Port Huron. They have arguably one of the best players in the area in Braylon Franz. He'll be a senior this year. He is a guy who can put the entire team on his shoulders and carry them if he has to. But the Saints do have other pieces to the puzzle who can help out. They should be a really good basketball team again this year. One of the biggest differences for them, though, is there is a coaching change. Matt Distelrath left St. Clair, and he'll be coaching at Richmond this year. But keep an eye on the Saints, who were knocked out of the playoffs last year by Yale. And that's the last team that I want to focus on here before the season gets rolling, and that's the Yale Bulldogs. Yale basketball had a tremendous year last year. Both the boys and the girls won league titles. Both of them won district titles. Both of them played in the regionals a year ago. And for the boys, they were the co-BWAC champs. Jackson Kohler was the BWAC MVP. He's another guy that you can make an argument for as the best player in the Blue Water area, and he'll have help. Tyler Debs and Andrew Hubbard are back for this Yale team. They were all area players last year, so it's not just a one-player show, although Kohler, like Braylon Franz and some of the other players we mentioned, can take over a game by themselves and put the weight of the team on their back. This is a team to watch. The expectations on Yale, they're not going to sneak up on anybody in a tough BWAC league where you have other contending teams like Emily City, like Croslex. Armada can be dangerous. Richmond, I think, will be a very interesting and dangerous team this year. The BWAC race is not a slam dunk for anybody, but probably the team that's got the target on their back to start the season at least will be the Yale Bulldogs, and I think they're going to be a really good basketball team again. So, again, not a lot on the schedule this week in week one, but we do have the boys basketball season getting underway and a couple of games to keep an eye on this week. PH will play at Yale in their opening game, which is an interesting matchup. Marysville will host Croslex later in the week. That's another interesting matchup, and Northern's first game is on Tuesday when they take on Anchor Bay. And the girls, we'll talk about them next time because their season gets started next week. So we'll be full into basketball when we get to next week's program here. But that's going to do it for this edition of the Thumb Coast Get Stuck on Sports TV edition.